Everybody hear me? Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you for attending and welcome. So let's just do a little bit of introduction here. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vrindeshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, Hare Krishna, welcome to class this afternoon. I don't know how clearly you all can see the screen from the back. Can you all see anything at all? Do you all want to come closer to the front? Will that help?
We can see it. Turn and face it this way.
Which way? That way?
Yeah.
But it's more
That-
light there.
You think so? If we turn the screen like maybe that way, but maybe just try.
That way?
Facing that side, facing my way. I don't know if that will help. Is that better?
Yeah.
Is it better?
So you make it full screen?
Yeah. Like this maybe. Is it? It's not full screen, is it?
Yeah. Full screen.
Is it? Is it full screen now? Okay, all right. Okay, so this afternoon's topic is on the glories of Purushottama month. How many of you are familiar with this month of Purushottama? By raise of hands. Purushottama. Okay, so I will discuss on the glories of this month, and I'd like for it to be a little bit interactive as well. If I want to contribute, ask questions, that would be nice, right? Okay. So Purushottama month is also known as Adhik Mas. More commonly people know it as Adhik Mas. Adhik because Adhik means extra. It's an extra month. And it occurs every 3 years, in a cycle of every 3 years. So it occurs in every leap year. So we know in the English calendar we have 12 months, right? In this Vedic calendar also we have 12 months, but every 3 years we get 13 months. Not an extra day like we have in the English calendar, where we have an extra day in February. We have a whole extra month. This month is called Adhik Mas or Purushottama. Now we will learn just now how Adhik's name became Purushottama, right? So this year Adhik Mas starts on the 18th of July and it finishes on the 16th of August. And it's Krishna's favorite month. We all know that the month of Kartik is Krishna's favorite month. Is that right? How many of you know that Kartik is Krishna's favorite month? Huh? I think we're all familiar now with the month of Kartik. You know the month where we offer the lambs to Damodar, we sing the Damodar Ashtakam? That month is very dear to Krishna. But now, this month of Purushottama is even more dear to Krishna. Alright? Right, so this month of Purushottam is actually named after Krishna. Krishna is known as Purushottam. Purush means a personality or a man. Uttam means high. The highest personality is Purushottam, who is no other than Krishna. Now, before we actually get into the whole class, I just want to touch base a little bit on karma. Right? We all understand what karma is. Karma is action. But there's 3 types of karma. We get karma, which is activities done in the mode of goodness, not against the scriptures, in conjunction with scripture. Then we get vikarma, which are sinful activities, activities done against scriptures. Right? And then we get akarma. Akarma is activities that don't bind you to any results. Now, although karma is good karma is good to have, it's still very binding, because you will have to reap the benefits of those activities, even though they're good activities. What does that mean? What does that mean? If you do a good deed, you're going to get a good result.
Yes.
And what does it mean for a person who leaves his body having done good karma?
When you won't reach Godhead, go to the higher planets.
Yeah? You can go to the higher planetary systems, correct? And then what happens after that?
You could reap the benefits there, and after that's done, come back to God.
Correct. That's it. So if you leave your body with really exceptionally good karma, generally such personalities or such souls reach this area called the heavenly planets. Now in the heavenly planets there's much opulence. Okay, it's a space designed for all these good souls with good karma. Right? So you live in that mode, you get placed in the heavenly planets to enjoy the fruits of your actions. Or if you haven't made that mark, you would still come back to this world and take another body type and then enjoy the fruits of your past karma in that way as well. Right? Either way. But if you go to the heavenly planets, there's a certain duration that you will last there. You will only last there for as long as your good karma lasts. So I heard in a class when I was studying under Mother Radha Sundri, Bhakti Shastri, she said to us that when a pious soul reaches the heavenly planets, they receive a garland, a flower garland. See? Beautiful garland like this, but a very long garland. A garland that touches the floor, it reaches the floor. And as your pious activities diminish, the flowers start drying up. And when the flower garland is completely dry, that soul is ready to take birth again. So you see how it is still, good karma is still very binding. That's the point I'm trying to make. Now what to speak of bad karma? Which is, what did I say bad karma is? Vikarma, right? You do vikarma, obviously you're going to come back, maybe in even lower life forms. Animals, plants, aquatic, who knows? Or even in a human form, but in a very suffering condition. So what's recommended? How do we get onto this platform of karma? That is the question, and that should be our goal. How we get onto the platform where we do activities that don't bind us. Akarma and vikarma have a common denominator. The common denominator being the cycle of birth and death. And that's what we want to try and get out of. So we have to try and strive to be on the platform of akarma, where we are not attached anymore. So the Lord is so kind. He has designed all these beautiful, auspicious months for us to observe, and has given us many benedictions that if we observe certain austerities and months, then it'll be very easy to come back to Him. Right? And it will also be considered to be activities in the mode of devotional service. Not even goodness, because we need to go above the mode of goodness, which is good karma. So therefore, coming back to this point of the month of Purushottama, by observing this month, a holy month of Purushottama, for the pleasure of the Lord, remember, for the pleasure of the Lord, not for our own pleasure, we are placing ourselves on the platform of our karma. Right? Because now it's not done for our purpose anymore, it's done for the pleasure of the Lord, because this month is important to Him and we want to satisfy Him. That's the mood it should be done in. Although, of course, there are many benedictions that come with it if you observe this holy month. Right? Okay, so we said that it is a leap year and when it starts. So, go to the next slide. Right, let's talk about Adhik Maas and how she took shelter of the Lord. Okay, I don't know if I maybe should stop the share. Can you read? So I don't really want you all to read, rather. Maybe just look when the pictures come up. Okay, just so we can concentrate on what we're speaking about here, right? So Adhik takes shelter of the Lord. This Adhik Maas. Remember, in the spiritual world, or in our Vedic culture, everything is personified. So even this month, Adhik is a personality. She is a person, right? Now Adhik was very, very sad. She felt very disrespected. She felt very alone. She was ridiculed by the other months. She used to be called terrible names like Mal Maas. I don't know how many of you have heard that Adhik Maas is also called Mal Maas. People without understanding sometimes refer to this holy month as Mal Maas, and they say that it is a bad luck month. Right? It's very sad that this is such a very big misunderstanding. It's not a bad luck month. It is not a month. It is recommended that in this month we don't have activities like weddings and big samskaras and that kind of thing. But not because it's a bad luck month. It's only because this month has been given much significance by Krishna himself. Krishna wanted us to glorify this month and dovetail all our activities towards glorifying this month of Purushottama. He's given her a very high status, and he didn't want our activities to deviate or our attention to deviate and go to other matters. Okay? That's why we don't do all these activities. We should have one pointed focus in this month of Purushottama. So Adhik was very sad. What does she do? She goes to Lord Vishnu. Okay, Adhik goes to Lord Vishnu. And she cries. She says to the Lord that this is what's been happening. I've been called ridiculous names like Mal Maas, and nobody wants me, and I'm being mocked because all other months have presiding deities and I don't. Whom do I take shelter of? I actually have no one to take shelter of. The situation is very pitiful. So Lord Vishnu said, not a problem. This is Lord Vishnu here, right? See Lord Narayan standing there next to Mother Lakshmi? That's Lord Vishnu. Right. So Lord Vishnu said, not a problem. Don't cry. I will take you to Lord Krishna and Goloka Vrindavan. We all know Goloka Vrindavan is the spiritual world, the highest planetary system. And one who goes to that place never returns. Right? So Lord Vishnu takes Adhik to Krishna. Now, the effulgence of the spiritual world is so immensely strong that Adhik couldn't take that effulgence, so she hid behind Lord Vishnu. She was standing behind him. And all Krishna could hear was sobbing. Not that Krishna didn't know Adhik is standing behind Lord Vishnu, but for pastime purposes, Krishna just heard the sobbing and inquired from Lord Vishnu, who is this crying in the spiritual world? This is a place of happiness. Right? Goloka Vrindavan is a place of happiness, where every step is a dance, every word is a song, every day is a festival. Nobody cries here. And then Lord Vishnu said, this is the situation. I've got Adhik with me, and this is what's been happening to her, and she comes here to seek your shelter. So Krishna advises Adhik not to cry. He said, you have come to me, and I will certainly give you shelter. So anybody who approaches the Lord will get shelter. Right? Anybody who approaches the Lord will get shelter. So there's no need to go astray if you're in distress. Because the Bhagavad Gita also says that 4 kinds of devotees, Krishna says 4 types of devotees approach him. One type is the person who is in distress. So Adik Mas approached him in that way. So Krishna said that from this day forward, Adik, I will give you shelter. And now, because I am giving you shelter, you will no longer be called Adik. Adik meaning extra or no place. You will now be called Purushottama. You will be named after me. I am Purushottama. So your month will be glorified. It's going to become my most favorite month. And everybody will worship you, and I will be the presiding deity of that month. Now we know that when a lady gets married to a man who is very opulent, materially opulent, then his wealth becomes her wealth, right? Likewise, because Krishna is the Lord, Supreme Lord, he is most opulent. He's got 6 opulences in full, right? One of his opulences is fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, renunciation. All these are his opulences. So therefore, because of Krishna's fame, Adik became famous as well, and she became known as Purushottama. And Krishna said to her that anybody who worships you in this month will gain multitudes of good reaction, good results. So for example, if you give donations and charity in this month, if you give like a 1 rand, it will be equivalent to like 10,000 rand, for example. So we encourage to give donations and do good activities, but we'll speak about that a little later in the class. Okay. Now, when I said that Krishna asked why she is crying and that nobody cries in the spiritual world, it's not entirely true, because there is crying in the spiritual world. But the type of crying is different. It's tears of ecstasy, tears of joy. So anybody who cries, any personality who cries in Goloka Vrindavan only cries out of absolute immense love. Not out of distress. Definitely not out of distress. So there's a story of Gopakumar, a personality who went back home to Godhead, to Krishna. And when Gopakumar went back to Godhead, to Goloka Vrindavan, and he saw Krishna, he cried. And guess what? Krishna also cried. But it was tears of joy. It was out of love, because there was a soul that went back home after such a long time, and Krishna inquired from him, where have you been? Where have you been? I've been waiting for you for such a long time. And then they fainted. And then they got up. And then they cried again, but it was just tears of joy. And then the Gopas saw, and the Gopas started crying. And the Gopis started crying. So the only crying that happens there is crying out of ecstasy, out of joy. Yes. Okay, because even in Dwarika, Krishna, when he was ruling Dwarika as a king, Dwarikadhish, there as well he cried in his sleep. Okay? Krishna cried in his sleep because he used to dream and think about his beautiful devotees in Vrindavan. So that was also tears of joy. It was crying out of separation, out of extreme love, not out of distress. So there's a picture here. Can you all see? That's a picture of Gopakumar and Krishna meeting in the spiritual world. There's the gopis and the gopas. Gopas are the cowherd boys, gopis are the cowherd girls, and the cows and the peacocks, everything personified, of course. Okay, so that's just a little picture that I managed to pull out. Right, let's get into the story of Adik Mas now, which is now we'll refer to as Purushottama Mas. Right? Krishna married her and gave her shelter. So the glory of this month was spoken by Krishna himself. Krishna explained it to Yudhishthir Maharaj, the Pandavas. We're all familiar with the Pandavas, Arjuna, Duryodhana, Yudhishthir and his brothers from Bhagavad Gita. Who's not familiar? We all know. Right? Dialogue from Bhagavad Gita. Right? So in Kamya 1, Krishna went to visit the Pandavas. And Krishna was very, very angry. He was extremely angry. Krishna was only angry because of the suffering that his pure devotees were going through, Yudhishthira and his brothers, the Pandavas. So anyway, he goes there and he was very angry with Duryodhan, that is the Pandava's cousin, because he was the one who was inflicting all this pain and suffering to Krishna's devotees. So Krishna was pacified by Yudhishthira, the eldest brother of the Pandavas. And later on we'll discuss why they were suffering. But for now, let's just leave it at that. Krishna met the Pandavas in Kamyavan, right? And Krishna explains the story that he's going to explain to the Pandavas of Purushottama was previously related. That story was told previously in the Nemi Sharanya forest by Sutta Goswami, right? And Sutta Goswami heard those glories being narrated by Lord Narayan to Narad Muni, his great disciple. So there's a picture here. Krishna relates the glories of Purushottam to Yudhishthira Maharaj. These are the Pandavas, the 5 brothers, right? Krishna and the 5 brothers. The next slide is a picture of Sutta Goswami. He's sitting here on the Vyasa Asana. And he related the Srimad Bhagavatam to King Parikshit and the assembly of devotees there. Okay, so Krishna advised that the story was previously told by Sutta Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit and the assembly of devotees there. Further back, he says, Sukdev Goswami said that the glories of Purushottam was previously related by Lord Narayan here to Narad Muni. So you see, the story goes on. Story told by someone else and someone else and someone, all by great elevated personalities and by Krishna himself. Eventually, right?
So every millennium.
I don't know how frequently it was said, but yeah, it was said after long periods of time. It was told and retold. Just like how we get Bhagavad Gita, it was spoken by the Lord a very long time ago to the sun god. Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, right? A long time ago to the sun god, Visva. And the science was lost over time. So Krishna came back and retold Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Like that pastime goes on. It gets discussed at different times, in different places. Okay. Now let's get to the point where Yudhishthira Maharaj wanted to know why they were suffering. They were banished to the forest by their cousin Duryodhan, and they were going through a tremendous amount of suffering. He wanted to know why. He asked Krishna, but why are we suffering? Because they're devotees of the Lord. Why are they suffering so much? It's a good question, right? So, Krishna explained that the wife of the Pandavas, Draupadi, in her previous life, she was the daughter of a Brahmin, of a Brahmin called Devi. Right. This Brahmin was very pious, but unfortunately his wife passed away while this girl was still very little. And in time she grew up. She had lots of friends, but all her friends were being married off. She wasn't married. And her father, this Brahmin Devi, never even thought about arranging a marriage for her like they would back then in our Vedic culture. He never even thought about it. Because, a single parent, just a father, no mother in the house, he never thought about it. So, eventually, the Brahmin passed away, and this child was orphaned. She had no one to protect her. We know, in our Vedic culture, and Prabhupada has said as well, that a female should not be left unattended. She should always have a protector. When she's little, growing up, she has her father. When she is a little bit older, if there's no father around, she has her brother. And then when she gets married, she has a husband to protect her. And in her old age, her son should protect her. But there should always be some sort of protection. But unfortunately, this little Brahmini girl was left unprotected. She was orphaned, she had no siblings, She didn't have anyone. So she became very sad, very alone. But Durvasa Muni was a very good friend. The sage Durvasa was a very good friend of this Medhavi Brahmin who passed away. And in that spirit, he went to visit this little Brahmin girl and said to her that he was very concerned. He guided her and he advised her to observe this month of Purushottama. And then this girl thought to herself, why should I observe this month of Purushottama? Because right now I'm alone. All I need is a husband and a protector and a household. And now this Brahmin is coming and telling me to observe this month of Purushottama. How is it going to help me? That thought in itself was so offensive. Durvasa Muni became very angry. He understood her heart. He became extremely angry and he wanted to curse her. And then he held back. He thought, no, he won't curse her because of the relationship that he shared with her father, one. And two, she's alone. She's just an orphaned girl. And all she needs is assistance. She needs help. So because of her offense, she had lost all her beauty. She became more lonely, more miserable. All of that happened to her. And then she started doing extreme austerity to Lord Shiva. You've got a picture here of Lord Shiva. You know who's Lord Shiva?
The one with the
Snakes around his neck, right? Do you know Lord Shiva? Okay. So she started doing austerity. For 9,000 years, she just prayed to Lord Shiva. Right? Eventually, Lord Shiva appeared before her and said to her, ask me for whatever you need, whatever you want, any benediction, and I will grant it to you. And this girl was so eager to get married that she wanted a husband, right? So she said to the Lord Shiva, I want a husband. But because she was so happy that she was finally getting what she wanted, she didn't ask once, she asked 5 times. She said, I want a husband. 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 She said it 5 times. You know, when we get happy about something, we tend to repeat ourselves. Well, this was her position. So Lord Shiva said, so be it. You shall have 5 husbands in your next life. And then she said, that's not what I asked for. I don't want 5 husbands. How can I have 5 husbands? He said, well, you asked and I benedicted. So he said to her, but that's fine. Don't worry. Don't be disturbed about it. Your 5 husbands will be very, very pious personalities. They will be pure devotees of the Lord. And you'll have a far better life. So she was born again in her next life as Draupadi, the wife of the 5 Pandavas. Okay. That's how Draupadi ended up with 5 wives. That's just a little bit extra I wanted to give you. Okay, so now Krishna explained this pastime to Yudhishthira Maharaj and said that was the problem. That's why you are suffering so much, because Draupadi disrespected the month of Purushottama in a previous life, and now you'll need to observe the month of Purushottama very, very sincerely, and you will come out of your suffering condition. Now, who observes Purushottama? Who should observe Purushottama?
all of us.
Yeah, everybody. Everybody, especially after you've heard the pastime. So everybody sitting here now that you'll know about Purushottama have to observe it, right? So everyone should observe Purushottama. Even the demigods observe the month of Purushottama. And what to speak of the demigods? Even Lakshmi Devi herself, the goddess of fortune, the consort of Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu standing up there on the lotus flower, even she observes this month of Purushottama. So what to speak of us? We all have to observe Purushottama. It's for the pleasure of the Lord. The Lord has given her that high status and we need to respect that as well. Now let's talk about what should be done in the month of Purushottama. Chanting. We must chant a little bit extra rounds if we can. Anybody else? Let's hear from you all.
Abstain from green leafy vegetables.
Okay, that's going into the Chaturmasya. That's the 4 months. That's another topic. No, not in Purushottama. But what are the good activities that we should be doing in this month?
Hearing about the pastimes of God.
Yes, we should firstly hear the glories of Purushottama, like we just did now. Right? We should chant.
Lot of seva.
Yes, do a lot of service, devotional service, but that's the most important thing, right? So what's devotional service? Like what? Examples?
You should be feeding the poor.
But what should you be feeding the poor?
Well, you have to feed them something food.
Yeah, but more than that?
With knowledge,
Prasadam, right?
prasadam, yes.
Yeah, because there's no point in feeding the poor non-prasadam, because as much as we want to fill their very hungry bellies, which is a good deed, it's on the platform of karma, it's a good deed, we want to feed their consciousness as well.
Yes.
So if we offer that bhoga and it becomes sanctified, it becomes prasadam, and then we feed it to them,
Yes.
then it's beneficial for them spiritually as well.
Yes.
Because feeding them temporarily is only for this material body, and that's it. We're going to give them a little bit more, right? So yes, distributing prasadam, good. What else?
Lamps.
Sorry?
Lamp.
Yes, 100% lamp. Just like we do in the month of Kartik, right? We offer a ghee lamp. Offering a ghee lamp is very, very, very significant in this month of Purushottama, not only in the month of Kartik. Preferably to put a little twig of tulsi, dried tulsi, in your lamp and offer it to Lord Krishna. Right? There's different ashtakams that you can play while offering the lamp. The Nandan ashtakam is recommended by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, has recommended some ashtakams that we can do in this month. He's recommended the Nanda ashtakam, the Chor ashtakam, and the Jagannath ashtakam. So while offering our ghee lamp, we can play that ashtakam, or we can sing it even if we know it. That's also very nice. Right. Also, lighting a ghee lamp gives off oxygen. Am I right, Gora? I've heard lighting of a ghee lamp gives off oxygen, so that's obviously very beneficial for us from a scientific point of view. Right, so we try and cook preparations in ghee as far as possible, because ghee is pure, very pure. It's a thing that we should be used in preparing foodstuffs for the Lord. But of course, I say again, everything depends on time, place and circumstances. Affordability. If you can't afford to cook in ghee, just make sure that your consciousness is correct when you're preparing the bhoga. But if you can afford to cook in ghee, if it's easily available, then by all means it's preferable. Cook in ghee, right? And ensure that everything is offered. Just now I said prasadam, right? Ensure that everything is offered to Krishna, giving charity. In some places in Vrindavan, actually, in this month of Purushottama, for every day of the month, a different festival is observed. Like Krishna Janamastami, Sri Ram Navami, Nishinga Chaturdashi. Every day they will do a different festival, because in that way they're glorifying the Lord to the maximum. So if you want to just observe the day in that mood too, it's also okay. Huh? Engage in more devotional service, we just spoke about that. Even distribute books. Tell people about the glories of the month of Purushottama. Distribute Prabhupada's books. Read Srimad Bhagavatam. That's very, very highly recommended, especially in this month. Of course, we should be trying to read that daily if possible. Okay, read Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita chapter 15. If you can read, if possible, if you can read chapter 15, the Yoga of the Supreme. That chapter is called the Yoga of the Supreme. It's entitled Purushottama. So it's a very short chapter. There's, let's see how many verses. There's 20 verses. Yeah, 20 verses. So if you can read these 20 verses of Bhagavad Gita in the month of Purushottama, it's very good, because that chapter is actually entitled Purushottama, dedicated to Lord Krishna, right? Krishna benedicted that whatever benefit one gets in worshipping him directly, they will get by following the Purushottama Vrat. That's how important following this Purushottama, austerity of Purushottama is. And eventually what will they get? They will get direct service of Radha and Krishna. And what happens then? What happens then? What do you think your chances are after that? You're worshipping the Supreme Lord every day. Sorry? Yes, you go back home, back to Godhead. Goloka Vrindavan, after the current life. This month has become extremely powerful. what should be done in the month of Purushottama. We've got some recommended activities to be done apart from what we've just discussed now, right? To speed up our spiritual advancement. We should take a bath early in the morning. I think everybody does that. Everybody takes at least one bath a day, I hope. Okay, but the idea is to have a bath early in the morning. Brahma Muhurat. You'll know what's Brahma Muhurat?
Auspicious time of day.
Yes, but that's early hours of the morning. It's actually about 1.5 hours before sunrise. Brahma Muhurat, it's called. It's an auspicious part of the morning. So devotees generally rise early at this part of the morning. They take a bath on a daily basis, chant their japa, and then they go on to do Mangal Arti and all of that, Tulsi Puja and all of that. But in this month of Purushottama, if you're not doing it on any other day, at least in the month of Purushottama, try and get up an hour and a half or so before sunrise, or at least before sunrise, right? And take a bath. Because just by taking that one bath, you get so much of benefit, because Krishna said so. It's one of the benefits of Purushottama month. That's how easy he's made it for us, right? Actually, it's recommended to bath in the holy rivers, but how many of us can get to the holy rivers, practically speaking? To River Ganga, that's the Ganges, or to River Yamuna, or to Prayag. It's not possible to get there. Even if you do go during the month of Purushottama, not too many people would be able to, right? So what you can do is just have a normal bath, but if by somehow you have holy water in your house, like a little bit of Ganga water or a little bit of Yamuna water, yeah, anything from the Kunds in Vrindavan or Mayapur, you keep that in a container, right? You can take a few drops and just sprinkle it on your head in the mornings, every morning. Okay. So, in the Hari Bhakt Vilas, volume 4, verse 437, it is recommended that we distribute milk sweets at the end of this month, after the vrat is finished, after the month is finished. Whoever's observed, try and distribute at least 33 milk sweets to a devotee or a devotee family who worships Krishna. Right? Try and distribute that. Why 33? Odd number, right? Why 33?
Because it's Adik Mas.
Yes.
Extra days.
Sorry?
I say it has an extra month.
Yes.
So 33 days.
So 33, because 33 months, after 33 months or so, I think you get Adik Mas. Well, 32 months, thereabouts. So they say just offer 33 sweets. But it's prasad, of course, that you're going to be distributing, right? So that's recommended as well. No celebrations should take place, like weddings and all of that, because this month the focus should only be on glorifying Purushottama. I said at the beginning of the class, not because it's a bad luck month, like people without understanding say. It's very offensive to speak like that, please don't. Don't call this month Malmas. It's Purushottama month, because Krishna said it's Purushottama month. Krishna has given her that high state. We should visit holy places. We all can't go visit the holy places all the time due to different constraints, but we can visit our local temples. Cleaning the temple is recommended. So you can go to your local temple, you can go to the temple and ask for some sort of service, clean the temple. If you can't do that, then even clean your own altar at home, your own temple room or your own altar. That's also beneficial. Offer Tulsi to Krishna. We should be offering Tulsi to Krishna every day, but especially so in this month. Ensure that you offer a Tulsi leaf at least daily to Krishna. If you can get lotus flowers, then that's also very nice to offer in this month to Krishna. Be very peaceful in this month. Okay? Be very, very peaceful. There should be no arguments, violence, anything of that sort. So when we speak of violence, we would generally think about violence against each other in a physical sense. But violence doesn't only manifest in a physical sense, it manifests in a verbal sense as well, in exchange of harsh words. It's injury, it's injuring other people when you speak unkind words. So we should avoid things like that. We should try and respect everybody. But also violence on a broader note is Violence not only to humans, should not have, we should not be violent to any living entity, animals as well. Therefore, those who don't observe a sattvic diet should especially observe a sattvic diet in this month of Purushottama, because you're not supposed to inflict injury or violence to even animals. Understand? Does that make sense? We should listen to the glories of Purushottama. Okay, according to Sukdev Goswami, this month is like a desire tree. It's like a desire tree. So whatever good activities you do, like whatever's listed here, you get like 10,000-fold the benefit from doing those activities. Right, there's another mantra that's recommended to be recited in this month of Purushottama. I've got it up on the screen. I don't know if you all can read it. Can you all read it from there? The font is in red. Can you all see? So I'm going to go through it. Okay. But I will share it anyway. Paramatma Prabhu can share it on the Westfall chat. So it's recommended that we do this mantra 3 times a day, 3 times. So do it 3 times in the morning, 3 in the midday, and 3 in the evenings, if you can, depending on your personal circumstances. Right, so it goes like this. You're worshipping Lord Krishna in his Govardhan form, or lifting the Govardhan hill. Govardhana dharam vande, gopalam goparupinam, gokulutsavame ishanam, govindam gopika priyam. That's the mantra. And it means, I worship the lifter of Govardhan hill, who has the beautiful form of a cowherd boy and who continually plays with the gopis. He is the Lord of Gokul, wherein every day is a festival. Show a picture. See? The picture of Krishna lifting Govardhan hill on his little finger of his right hand. Or left hand, was it? Left hand. Left hand. For 7 days and 7 nights. Protecting the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the wrath of Indra. That's how Krishna protects his devotees. So recite this mantra 3 times a day. It's very nice. Then there's another mantra as well that's recommended, also offering glorification to Krishna. Vande Navaghana Shyama Vibhujam Muralidharam Pitambar Dharam Devam Sharadham Purushottamam. I offer my obeisances to Navaghana Shyam, Krishna, who has the color of a fresh rain cloud, who is holding the flute with his 2 hands. I worship Purushottama, who is so beautiful in his yellow dress, Pitambar. Pitambar means yellow. So these are beautiful ways of describing Krishna. So if we can offer this prayer 3 times a day, that's very nice. Okay, and that actually brings us to the end of the class, much earlier than I expected. So Hare Krishna. So let us discuss any questions, any contributions on the glories of Purushottama. Let's hear.